This episode is brought to you by the Cisnus Agency, helping families and individuals achieve their dreams by providing the roadmap and education of building wealth through home ownership. Contact Nina and DJ today and get a free home consultation. And go follow the Cisnus Agency on Instagram to get the latest market updates and home buying opportunities. Sister C.
Brother Adam.
What's going on?
What's up, my guy?
How you feeling? How you doing?
We here.
We back at it.
With another guest.
Another episode.
How do we do this time now?
Just He'll have to learn. He'll have to learn the handshake.
Is that part of the culture? All right. I'm with it.
All right. Well, Sister C, it is the middle of September, and these kids are all back in school.
Back in school.
We are back to drop off and pickups and making lunches and doing homework.
Traffic in the morning.
Goodness
gracious.
So we brought this guest on because we're hoping he could provide some insight for all of our parents and students out there to maximize their school year. Also, maybe share some gems with us about resources that the schools provide that people aren't tapping into.
Yeah.
Talk about some things that's going on in our school right now. For one, school safety is a big issue, and because of school shootings, it's become a heavy topic, and parents are concerned.
Right.
This gentleman has 19 years of education experience.
Nice.
He is a husband. He is a father of school-age children himself, which is in elementary, junior high, and high school right now.
Yep.
Wow.
Hopefully soon to be college.
Yeah.
And so without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Dejuan Johnson. Welcome to Just Two Scorpios podcast, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for coming.
All right, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just real quick for our guests, do you mind just kind of sharing your background, education, where you grew up, how you ended up where you're at now?
Yeah. Kind of like the origin story, right?
Yeah.
And so, I've been in, as you mentioned, in education over, about 19 years. This is my 19th year. I started off in education as a teacher. I did that for about 4 or 5 years. And then as a counselor for about 10 years. And then this last leg of it as an administrator. So I've been able to kind of see all three levels, which has been great.
Yeah.
And witness some things, have some experiences, have some stories, but yeah, that wasn't necessarily my original intent when I graduated from high school, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like, I want to be a teacher. I wanted to get out of school, far away, right? Like I wanted nothing else to do with school. But I think what triggered me wanting to even get into education before I even knew I wanted to do it was just one of the experiences I had when I moved from Inglewood, California to Claremont, California.
Inglewood?
Yeah.
Shout out to the Wood.
I was up to no good. So, but yeah.
So this is high school when you made that move, or?
It was high school. I was 16.
Okay.
And so, growing up in Inglewood, you're around, black and brown. That's what you know. And then in school, I excelled when I was in Inglewood. I was in honor roll. I felt proud of that.
Yeah.
And then with our move, that wasn't the case anymore. I learned really quick just the gross inequities of education because I went to Claremont and I was failing everything.
So you went from AP classes, moving to Claremont. Were you in AP classes out there too, or no?
No.
Regular classes, and you started failing.
Yeah, when I was in Inglewood, I didn't know we had AP. I didn't know what AP was.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So I don't know if I was in the class or not. I just knew I had good grades. The first time I even heard of AP is when I went to Claremont.
Gotcha.
And, they didn't put me in AP classes. They put me in light classes, which were equivalent to like honors and stuff like that.
Okay.
And even some of the regular classes, but I couldn't pass. I was failing.
Oh wow.
And so and that was my first introduction to an A in Inglewood is an A in Claremont. Like there's something's not right.
It's not the same A.
We're not learning the same stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that was my first like, this world is a lot different than I know. My first exposure to something different. And so, but when I got my undergrad, it was in communications. It wasn't in education. It was just something that I was interested in. But once I had an opportunity to truly take something I had learned, like a skill as it relates to communications, like I was really good with technology, but I didn't learn that until I was in college.
Yeah.
And then, but I had an opportunity to take it and then teach others. I think that's where it kicked in, like, I can make an impact in this. This is what I want to do.
In teaching.
Yep.
And so fast forward now, you're at one of the premier high schools in Southern California. Which
Yes,
I think
yes,
is
I
important
am.
to mention.
Yes,
And you're
yes.
administrator. What's your actual title right now?
Assistant principal.
Okay.
So assistant principal. And in my role, there's 3 other assistant principals as well.
Wow.
I oversee.
Is that normal?
It depends on your school size and it depends on the makeup of the district.
Gotcha.
So at our site, there's over 3,500 kids. And
Oh.
so,
Wow.
you know, that's not typical at other school sites.
Yeah.
Right? And we're not the biggest school in the district.
Gotcha.
And so there's 3 others who deal with subject matter content, programs, discipline.
Gotcha.
So, you know, I get to see the whole gamut.
Yeah.
And then we got other ones that kind of work with the activities and athletics of the schools.
I'm going to read a quote for you. Okay. I just want to get an honest response from you.
Okay.
And then also want you to expand on it if you can.
Okay.
Teachers literally have the future of the country in front of them every day.
Yes.
You believe that in your experience?
Yeah, we not only do we have it in front of us, we get to impact it, influence it, and touch it. Like, it is a some would say a tall task, but it is something that inspires me. It gives me the motivation to go out and do what I do every day, because it's a you know, leadership is a burden, right? It's a debt, and you pay that debt through service. And I think with us being able to have the impact, knowing that we can touch the future and that we do touch the future every day, it gets me excited to go in.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned that before, when you were in school, you said you wanted to run far away from school.
Oh, yeah.
You said you had different dreams, different goals. What were those dreams? What were those goals before you decided to go into education?
Well, it was a few of them. I remember just being like 10 or 12, like I wanted to be an electrical engineer.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It sounded really cool. My dad did stuff with technology, and I was like, you know, I want to play with wires and do stuff like that. I was always inquisitive and just analytical, and I think that worked towards it. But I remember I had a couple experiences in school where you had to learn how to do drafting, right?
Yes.
In 7th grade, and I couldn't draw. And I had an experience with the teacher where the teacher actually like physically put their hands on me, like,
what?
Really?
Like, yeah. And it was
Really?
like, they like choked me out. I was like, I remember going home telling my parents, I was like, I don't want to do electrical engineering because of my experience.
Yeah.
Right.
What?
And so, so then I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. And so then you get a little older, think about 8th, 9th grade, like I want to be an NBA, like right. Everybody got the hoop dream, right?
Man.
Hoop dreams that just came out.
I still shed a tear when I think about it.
I was like, man, I want to get in the NBA. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So, you know, I played, but you know, my skill level in my mind wasn't what my coaches saw.
Yeah.
So, so that put a cap on it probably about maybe 11th grade, 12th
Sister
grade.
C can't relate. She was nice.
Yeah,
she was nice,
okay,
allegedly.
all right. But in my head,
was
man,
nice.
I had game. I had a bag.
Yeah.
And then, but I remember around that time, 10th, 11th, 12th, like, honestly, I didn't really care what I did. I just wanted to make money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the thought was, if I make money, everything else will just fall in line.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like my just adolescent experience as far as what it is I wanted to do. But I always still had a thing for tech because I saw it in the home.
Okay.
And so I think that was a large part of me just kind of doing like radio, TV, and film and communications when I went to get my undergrad.
So when you graduate, I'm sorry.
No,
brother.
please go ahead.
So when you graduated and you walked the stage, what was the plan at that moment?
From high school?
Yeah.
Oh, I already knew I was going to college. Like that
Okay.
wasn't like a thing. Like I was going.
Yeah.
That was something that was preached at home. It was something that I felt would give me more opportunities. I didn't know what those opportunities was going to be. And then the other piece of it was like what's the other option? Stay home?
Yeah.
So yeah, going to college was always on the radar.
So you figured it out. You could say you figured it out once you got in college.
I figured it out, honestly, I would say the year I graduated college.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
So going into college, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to have all this lined up. I didn't really know.
What was your first year like subbing then? Like, what was your introduction to teaching or education?
So my introduction to that was 2005.
Gotcha.
Right? 2004, 2005. That's when I got into the educational space. Because after I graduated from college, like I worked in post-production, right? I worked at MTV, I worked at TBN, I worked at NBC. Like that was my thing. Like I was going to be this, in my head, this producer, editor that did music videos, that did commercials, because I had a knack for technology. It came easy and I liked it. What I didn't like was the fact that I had to sit in a dark editing room all day and edit.
Yes.
And I was like, I think I like people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so then I had an opportunity, University of Michigan, so education always comes back to it, to teach these courses in graphic arts and design and video production and like robotics and STEM. Like I had a chance to teach it.
Nice.
And so I remember somebody there was like, man, like you're really, and they were kids like 7 to 17. And they were like, hey, you got a really good knack for working with students. And I was like, I do. They said, hey, you may want to consider it. I'm like, huh. And then I remember a couple times they would ask, hey, like when we get off of work, like let's all hang out. And I'm like, this is work?
Yeah.
this just seems like fun. Like,
Yeah.
Like I was like, this is work. So that was like, oh man, maybe there's something there.
How old were you at this point?
I was 23, 24.
Okay.
So that's when it was like, oh, maybe there's something here. Because during that time, I was kind of trying to find like, what is it that I want to do, right?
Yeah.
I know what I like, or at least I think I do. And so when I came back to Cali, I started subbing.
Gotcha.
And then I liked it.
Yeah.
And so people like, you like being a sub?
Yeah.
Like they do subs hard, but like kids were happy to see me, man.
Yeah.
They were like, dude, like you black and you a sub? Like, and you keep coming back?
Right.
Like,
And you're a young man.
And I was young too.
Yeah.
So it was like, I was like, all right, I think this is it.
Yeah.
I think this is it.
All right.
Wow.
So fast forward now 19 years
Yeah.
of experience in education.
Yeah.
What have you seen in terms of changes in the school system? So like we drop off our kids at school, you drop off your stepson, like they're gone for 6 hours a day. We don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what should parents be expecting the school to be providing for their students in that 6 hours? I know right away we're already thinking, I want my kid to be getting education.
Yeah.
But what else should we be expecting from the schools?
I think it depends on the parent, honestly.
Okay.
You know, for us, like when I drop my kids off, or my wife dropped my kids off, it's, you know, you want them to learn.
Yeah.
But I think even before that, you want them to be safe,
Man,
right?
1000%.
That's the first thing. And then you want them to come back to you home, right?
Right.
And enjoying their day and enjoying the experience. But I think it depends on the parent, right? I know parents who, like, them dropping their kid off at school is, I know they're going to get fed today, right? That's not a concern, like, maybe for us, but like some parents are really just taking their kid to school to get a breakfast and a lunch, because breakfast and lunch are free.
Yeah.
Right.
Like some are dropping them off because like there's air conditioning there and we can't afford it at our house and it's 110 outside. Right?
Yeah.
Some are dropping them off because the environment at school is a safer environment than it is for them at home.
Yeah.
Right. So it really depends. But parents drop their kids off for all kind of reasons. I honestly think the luxury of kids who have support at home is being able to be dropped off at school to learn.
Absolutely.
That's a luxury.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
But I think ultimately the thing that parents want is for their kid to be safe.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So as a parent, you had mentioned something earlier. If you have a kid that's like in a school and maybe they're struggling a little bit, right? Or they're having issues, what's your opinion on switching schools? Because I had a couple friends just recently, they switch their kids to different schools or even different school districts because, you know, the kid's like, hey, I'm having an issue here at the school.
Yeah.
But I remember back in the day, I don't know, I felt like I didn't have options. It's like,
it wasn't that easy.
yeah, it's like, you have to thug it
Thug
out
it out right here.
Right,
It was
right.
not
This
as
is-
easy.
This is where we live. This is the
Yeah.
school. That's it.
Yeah.
It seemed like the ease is so much. You could switch schools like nothing. Hey, mom, I want to go to this school. And be like, all right, let me do what I need to do to get you over there.
Yeah.
And it happens.
Yeah.
I couldn't
What
switch
do you
schools that
think
easy.
about that? Like, if there's a kid, because I mean, you've seen everything at this point. If a kid's
Yeah,
struggling, are you an advocate for like, hey, you know what, we've tried here. Maybe they need a new environment, or what do you think parents should be doing in those situations?
You know, a lot of my answer is going to be, it depends, because there's a lot of different situations.
Yeah.
But if a student is struggling, let's say academically, right? And remember, I got kids at all three levels, right? So I got elementary, middle, and high school. And so my response would kind of be different depending on what level the kid is in. Like if a student's in an elementary school and they're struggling academically, most often that kid only has one teacher.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
If there's some type of like dual immersion program, they may have a second teacher or something like that. But I think if they're struggling academically, I would suggest not necessarily changing the school unless the kid is unsafe, but, you know, having those conversations with the teacher, you know, and maybe the administration of the school, because the mindset that I have with my kids and what I tell parents is like, you are your kid's first teacher and you have to have that mindset. And when you go into a school setting, they're not going to get 100% of what you think they should have. Like you got to academically, right?
Yeah.
You have to go into it with that. And so you would have to talk with the teacher. I remember my youngest son, like, you know, the school he was at is in elementary. It's different than where we are now because we moved, but they're like, well, there's some deficits in his learning.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, and they were like, well, we have this intervention program where we want to take him out of class and get him the supports. Most parents will be like, oh, cool, help my kid out.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. And so I'm like, no. I'm like, what do you mean?
Why would you say no to help?
Great question.
Yeah.
So because I know the system. So if my kid is out of class getting an intervention, guess what? They're missing what's happening in class.
Oh, gotcha.
So you start this cycle of they're going to always be behind, right? Because they're going out getting the help, but they got to be removed from class to get the help. So what's going on in class, they're not getting. So me with the mindset is I'm my kid's first teacher.
Yeah.
Teacher, let me know what it is that the deficits are. And it's my responsibility
to work on it
on them at home. Because I don't want you missing out.
Okay, so not switching schools, but okay.
But that's elementary, right? That's the elementary example. Right.
How about at what point should parents be considering what school their kid's gonna attend? Like, so I live in a certain area and I noticed that like the junior highs around me, their ratings are low, or I don't even know how those ratings really work, right? But like, when should parents start really thinking about, okay, I need to make sure I'm going to send my son or daughter to like a really good school, and I want a school that has great rankings and are doing well. Like, how important is that? And then should parents be like willing to drive out the way to make sure?
Well, I think just in general, a parent is going to do everything they can to make sure their kid has the best opportunities or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. But a lot of times those rankings and stuff, it's perception, right?
Okay.
It's not necessarily the reality all of the time, right? I think one of the things that I would tell parents is, if you really want to know how your kid's district, right? Don't look at the school.
Look at the district.
Look at the district overall, because depending on where the student is in certain pockets, that school may be great at there, but you go down the street and it may have a different, you know, social economic standing. It may not be so well, and it's all in the same district.
Gotcha.
Right. So I would look at the district data, and every parent can go on a California dashboard.
Dashboard.
Right.
Okay.
Don't go get so caught up in what's sent out in the news clippings. Go to California dashboard. You can see every district's what they call like student accountability report card or school accountability report card. You can see how they're doing, right? Whether it be their dropout rates, whether it be discipline, right? How they scored in math or language arts or science. Like, I would use that as a barometer to say, all right, I want my kid in this area, because the district is an organization that has the schools within it. So check out the district.
So I know a lot of, I'm sorry not to cut you off. I know a lot of parents use greatschools.org, I think it is, to get.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Okay. So you're.
You don't like that one?
It's not. I've heard of it, but I don't think you can get the real from it, right?
Gotcha.
You'll get what people like, right? And they'll put in their suggestions. It's kind of like going on to Yelp, right?
Yeah.
You got 4 stars, 3 stars. It's like, this is people's opinions of what they think the food is like.
Yeah.
I think that website is a similar one. But if you really want to get into what's going on, you go California dashboard.
Got it. California dashboard.
Good to know.
Yeah, go California dashboard.
All right,
and now if it lines up to what it says on there, then you know you're in a good spot. But that's
things have changed a lot because of technology.
Yeah.
Right. So there was a time where like you couldn't have your phone at school, or you could get it taken away, and that became a big like point of contention for parents, teachers, administrations, everybody. But now it seems like everybody got their phone. Has that rule changed?
Dude.
Yeah.
I used to have a pager, and if our pager went off in school, they bring it up to the box. You had to drop it in the box and just leave it there.
That part of education, right, in the 19 years or year 19 I'm going, that has changed the game tremendously.
Okay.
Right? Most families or most parents give their kid a phone for what? Well, I want
access.
I want access.
In case there's
I want to
emergency,
be
anything.
safe.
Yeah.
If there's anything happens, like
where
I
are
can
you
get
when I
to
need
you,
to pick you up?
can get to me, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, how often are emergencies happening? It depends where you are, right?
Yeah.
You know, but kids are savvy, right?
1000%.
And whatever's happening on that screen is a million times better than anything that teacher could say.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Right? A million times better,
Yeah.
right? I mean, think if we're at work and somebody's doing a training or a lesson, you're like, okay, whatever, what's going on over here, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing for adults, right? Kids are just little
true.
adults.
There's no difference.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the classroom, you know, one of the biggest areas of contention is the cell phone.
Okay.
Because you'll have some teachers have rules where like or expectations. If you come into my classroom, there's like an area where you can drop your phone off, like a cubby or something like that, right?
So they're walking into the classroom,
Right.
and the teachers wants them to drop their phone.
Right. So they'll put it as an expectation, right? Like
The $1,200 iPhone.
right. So
Drop
you
it in
can-
this cubby.
and they give them options, right? They'll go, you can put it into the cubby,
Yeah.
or you can just put it in your backpack. I just don't want to see it
Gotcha.
because if it's out, it's a distraction.
That's fair.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And that's fair. But kids see these devices as an extension of themselves. Like
Yes.
it's like a limb,
Yes.
right?
We
So-
kind of do too. Right?
right?
Yeah.
So if the kid,
Exactly.
kid
Yeah.
doesn't want to put it in the cubby,
Right.
Yeah.
and he or she doesn't want to put it in their backpack, right?
Yeah.
They have it out on their desk,
It's on the desk.
and then the teacher's like, I told you to put that away. Oh, I'm just looking at the time. Well, there's a clock there. We're not going to hold you here. Like,
Right.
you leave every day when the bell rings at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? Give me your phone. And
Give
there
me
we-
your
Oh,
phone.
Right?
just to give
Dang.
me-
Right? So,
Yes.
well, I'm not giving you my phone.
Mhm.
Right? It's my phone. Right? And then, well, you didn't listen to the first time to put it away. And now you got this area of contention, right?
Yeah.
From the teacher's perspective, like, I set up an opportunity for you to show maturity to either put it in the cubby or put it in your backpack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the kid's perspective, it's like, well, it's my phone. I'm gonna do what I want with it, right? And so then you get the phone call home, right? You know, Mr. Pitts, you know, such and such didn't want to put their phone away. You're like, it's a $1,200 phone.
Yeah.
I don't want them putting it in the
I
cubby.
don't want them putting in the cubby
Well,
for
they
sure.
wouldn't put it in their backpack either. Well, you know, okay, just in case I need to get in contact with them, I need them to have it out.
Oh.
Well, they're on their phone watching YouTube videos and not listening to the lesson. And you probably wondering why your kid is not doing well in class. There you go.
There it is. He's not focusing.
right? And so you multiply that by 35 kids in the classroom,
Yeah.
right? And so the teacher is constantly battling this every day.
It's still a thing then.
Oh, it
Absolutely.
hasn't gone away because
Why are you guys still battling that though?
because what are we supposed to do with the phones?
Especially when the
Right?
parents aren't supporting.
The parents
Yeah,
aren't
that part.
supporting,
That
right?
part.
Kid, I'm texting my mom in class.
Yeah.
Mom had a question. I'm calling my dad.
Yep.
In
And
class, not between periods.
Right, in class. And so you as the parent is like, well, I gave him the phone because I need access.
Yeah.
I need them to have access to their $200
Right, but at the
phone.
same
I'm sorry.
time, you're saying, well, why aren't they learning in class? Like,
Yeah.
what is the teacher to do?
Yeah.
Wow. All right, so the social media piece too.
Yes.
So we got technology, but
Yeah.
social media is a beast right now.
Oh,
So we had peer pressure growing up, right?
Absolutely.
That was always the thing. Don't give in to
Yeah.
peer pressure. Be careful with your peers.
Mhm.
But now I feel like is there social media pressure? Because these kids are they're so tapped in everything that's happening, and
Yeah.
just like adults, right?
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
saying that they're wrong, as we're tapped into.
Yeah.
But like, what does a culture inside of a high school look like nowadays, and kids with like cyberbullying and
Yeah.
social media, like
Well, remember I said before, like the phone is an extension of them,
right,
right? So you see a kid without a phone, that's kind of like, what's wrong with this kid almost, right?
Real- okay.
Because is rare.
yeah,
And so the peer pressure and social media, they're one and the same.
okay,
Right? It's almost like, you know, watching television, if you will. It's, you know, you're going to be influenced by the things you see and you hear.
Yeah.
And so those same things happen with social media. It's just like you got a television in your hand all the time now, right?
Yeah.
Kind of equated to how we grew up in schools. And so, you know, those TikTok challenges, you know, those are huge. I remember, was it last year or the year before, where one of the big challenges was, it was like Dev Licks or something like that. It was where kids would just go and destroy school property
what?
and then record it, right? And that was the thing,
Yeah,
right? That was the hashtag. And then And so we're looking at these students like, really? Like this is what we're doing? Like they're destroying the soap dispensers in the restroom, they're destroying toilets, they're destroying desks because they saw it on social media.
It's a TikTok
right?
trend, and I want to be trendy.
Right. Or they had one where they was like slap an educator.
Whoa.
Yeah, that I didn't think that was gonna be good for them.
Yeah.
Just, people looking for a reason to go off.
Yeah.
I wish somebody would. So but the social media, I mean, not just the TikToks, but like for them, that's like that stuff we know as adults isn't always real.
Right.
But they see it as real.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they
right?
do.
And so, and reality is like perception is reality.
1000%.
But we know that reality is a lot more complex than the narrative. Yes. Right?
So you get parents right now, which seems strange. They're having arguments with their kids about that reality, because
absolutely,
you'll tell your kids something, they'll be like, "No, mom and dad, you're wrong because I saw this on TikTok,
absolutely,
or I saw this on Instagram,
yes,
and this is right and you're wrong."
Yeah,
that is a challenge that I see in my own household. Right, I'm literally telling this kid, "No, this is the way it goes. Yeah, no, you're wrong.
Right,
you're wrong.
You're wrong.
This is how it goes.
Wait
a minute. Then you have to start reminding, kid, I am 40 plus years old.
I've been here
How are you telling me this? I've been through junior high.
Yeah.
I've been through high school. Yeah. I graduated. I've learned some things over the years, and you're telling me what TikTok told you.
Right.
That's not right.
Yeah.
So that has to be spilling over into the classroom, though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
If a teacher is saying, I think it's maybe the worst time to teach because the kids have access to so much information. Like, you have to know what you're saying is right because they're gonna go fact check.
Well, you got to look at it different, right? So when we went to school, right, it's the teacher was the one in which we got the information from.
Right.
Their job essentially at that point was to teach us. We get the knowledge and we regurgitate it in a way in which we would get
graded
or whatnot. The teacher's role has changed, right? Because they're not the end all be all with the information, right? They're now the facilitator. Because if we look at it this way, there is nothing that teacher can teach you that you can't get before you get to class. I mean, really, like if I'm teaching you, I don't know, math, history, whatever, I can look it all up if I wanted to on my phone, right? And have the knowledge. So you go, well, what's the use of the teacher then? Well, the teacher's job has changed in the sense their job is to facilitate that knowledge and help kids learn how to harness it and use it, right? They're no longer the end all be all when it comes to information because I have more information in this device than anything you could tell me. And what you tell me right now, it could change in 10 minutes and I would know because I have it right here.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. And so I think that part of teaching, well, that cell phone piece is huge because that's, once again, it's an extension of them. That's how they feel. And it's always on them. And so you have to learn kind of how to craft the experience. I kind of liken it to like Starbucks, right? If you drink coffee, you can make coffee at your house.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can probably make it cheaper and it'll probably taste better. Why do we go to Starbucks? You go for the experience, right? You don't go because you need them to teach you how to make coffee.
Right.
You go because it's convenient. It's a great experience and it keeps you coming back.
Yeah.
Smells great.
Right. Smells good. It starts your day off. Maybe it's part of your routine, whatever the case may
Definitely
be.
a routine thing.
Teaching is starting to transition into that.
Really?
Right. You're not necessarily coming to school to get the knowledge. You're coming for the experience, or you should be coming for the experience.
Yeah.
Right? Because and the experience is going to differ based on the aptitude and the attitude of the student and the teacher and the school site. Like, so it's not, as I said before, you're not coming to one place to get knowledge from one person.
Right.
Their job is to facilitate that experience for you.
And that could be a challenge with the youngsters and teenagers, just for the simple fact they like, okay, I've done this experience a few times. I'm starting to realize I don't like the experience.
I don't like the experience. Right. There we go. Yes.
I don't want to do it.
Right.
I can just learn from my phone. I don't want this experience.
And that's part of the fight, right? Because I don't like the experience you're offering to me in period 6, although I might like it in period 4.
Right.
But because I don't like the experience, I'm going to tune in here because I like this experience. And whatever that experience is on a device.
So that device, what does cyberbullying look like for those parents that haven't experienced it yet?
Yeah.
Or don't know exactly what it is? Because you've dealt with that on some levels, right?
Oh, every level.
Something starts to get passed around the school. Your daughter, your son is on there,
right?
And it's becoming a thing.
And it's progressed, right?
Yeah.
So I remember when I was a counselor at the middle school.
Yeah.
There was a young lady who they were in PE and they were changing, and then there was another young lady who thought it would be cool to take a picture of the student changing. And then they posted it on, at the time, I think that was, what was it? I think it might have been Facebook or Instagram. It was Instagram, because Instagram had just come out.
Dang.
So everybody in the school got to see, you know, her naked body, because another student in the class thought it was funny.
Not cool.
Right? So parents come in, right, hot. Right?
Man,
understandably so.
I am wilding.
Yeah.
I'm wilding.
You're hot thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
I'm wilding.
Understandably so. Mr. Johnson, what are you going to do to fix this, right? And I'm looking at them like, and this was early times when we were at social media. I'm like, well, where did this happen? Well, it happened on your campus.
Yeah.
And it's all on social media. We need it to go away. Well, I don't control social media.
Yeah.
But, you know, tell me who did it, right? And then we'll handle it from that perspective.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to tell you.
What?
Well, why not? Well, I don't want them to be repercussions, and my kid still has to go to school with this kid. Okay.
No.
So I'm like, well, I don't know how to help, because if you won't tell me who it is, I'm disappointed that this happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't go any further if I don't know who it is, right? And then the parents like, well, you got to figure it out. I don't. I know what happened in PE. I know what happened third period. Like, I can go over talk to the teacher. I can go make an announcement in the third period class. But if no one comes forward, there's nothing else I can do. Right? So that's one part of it. But this is the challenge with the phones and the social, like the phones. I'm telling you guys, phones have made teaching that much more challenging, right? You have a situation like that, and then that, and I'll tell you later how that all got handled. But you'll have another situation, and this is the majority of the situations, it has nothing to do with what happened at school.
It's what's happening out of school. It's
happening out of school, right? Such and such said that they were going to kill me because they didn't like something I said. They're having DMs back and forth on IG or on TikTok or on Snap. And then what happens, it comes in and affects the learning environment at school. And so the parent is like, well, this kid said such and such about my kid on Snapchat. We want you guys to handle it. Right. And so the first thoughts initially was like, well, this didn't even happen on my campus. Like,
what do you expect me to do?
What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
But it's affected the learning environment. So I have to do something. Right. And so then you call, this parent was like, well, this is the kid that did it. So you bring the kid in. Well, they said this is about me. So now I got about 3-4 hours of just all kind of stuff that people said about each other on social media. Yeah. Right. Kids aren't in class because I got to investigate what's going on.
Right.
And it takes away from the day, right? It takes away from their experience because they feel what they feel. But at the same time, it takes away from me being able to maybe help someone else who may be in more dire situation. And so that social media piece is huge. And it comes to cyberbullying. Like, if we're able to do the investigation and find out who the kids are and what's happening, like, there's consequences. There's ed code that supports us in being able to, give a kid a consequence.
Even though it didn't happen on campus.
Yeah, because it affected the school environment.
Do you think kids should have social media? Teenagers?
I do.
You do?
I do. I do. But I think it needs to be closely monitored, right?
So a parent that's listening to this right now, child has TikTok and the Instagrams. What should they be doing? Am I checking this daily? Am I have parameters? Or like,
so keep in mind, I have kids. I have 4.
Yeah.
Right. And so I have a 15-year-old and I have a 13-year-old. And it took me, like, I lived this experience. I'm like, oh, this social media.
Yeah, because I remember before you wasn't with it.
I was like, no. But then I thought to myself, am I setting up my kids for success? Right. Because at some point, they're going to be out of my home.
Yeah.
And I want whatever, mistakes and mess ups they have with social media to happen in my home, because then I can have those conversations, right? As opposed to, like, they graduated high school and they're college, they're wilding out on social media because they never had it before. And now, like, there is no a safety net. Like, you're a full-fledged adult.
Yeah.
Like, so, and I didn't teach you those lessons. And so, I think social media is a way our kids communicate, right?
Yeah.
I got my daughter her phone when she was in 6th grade, right?
Okay.
And for the large reason is because she was walking home her brothers and sisters from school, and I wanted to be able to get in contact with her and have access.
Right.
The first thing she asked me when she got her phone was like, "Dad, I want to get Instagram." I'm like, "No."
Yeah.
Like, no, for what?
What do you need it for?
Right? And especially with girls, like the data, the research shows you with girls, the social media affects them even more than it does with boys.
Why is that?
In which way?
In which way? Because girls see their image as a part of who they are, and the image pieces, right? Yeah. Well, I don't look like Kim Kardashian, or I don't look like this person, or so that weighs heavy on our females.
That has to be crazy because when we were growing up, I mean, being teenagers, like only the people in your proximity had access to you. Now all of a sudden, the entire world.
Right.
So I can't speak to what it's like to be a teenage girl, but to be having your body change and going through puberty and all this other stuff, and now it's like, you have everybody.
Yeah,
everybody's chiming in on it.
I think when we were younger, especially for myself, I think we had videos. I mean, that's kind of where we got our image from, how we wanted to look. And during my time, my image was like groups like Escape, TLC, and the style back there was dramatically different, you know? So I didn't have to keep up with the image that the girls got to keep up with right now. It's so different.
And then remember too, the other piece of it is the likes that go with it. Right. If I post something,
that dopamine,
right? The dopamine, right? There's a book out right now I was reading. It's called Dopamine Nation. If you ever, it's amazing. But I posted something, nobody liked it. Like that takes a direct hit to who I am as a person.
Right.
That means they don't like me.
You're not interested in nothing.
Right. Like that means they don't mess with you. Right. That's how it's being interpreted. Right. Or the fact that someone doesn't like something you say, and then they just delete you as a friend, like cancel culture.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like that is huge.
And they take that personal.
They take it personal, right? And so so you have that. That was my daughter. So eventually when she started high school, she was like, "Dad, can I have a social media?" And I'm like, well, you know, we're just starting out. Let's kind of see how that first semester goes. But this whole time I'm doing research, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, how do I I know how to give her the social media, but how can I monitor it in a way and have these conversations with her to help her make wise choices, right? But once again, that's something that also me looking at it from I'm my kids' first teacher. Gotcha. I'm my students' first teacher. And so I connected her Instagram. I got her on Instagram.
Okay.
I connected it to my account, right? So I can see if she's, posting stuff or people replying back to her. The other thing that I use, if you have an iPhone, this thing called screen time. You can adjust the screen time for your kids. You can shut off their use of their phone, like
at a certain time or
whenever.
Oh, gotcha.
Right? I was like, "Oh, you giving me a little lip today? All right, we're not gonna have any phone time today, all right?" And it's the worst too because I ain't got to take your phone. Like you have it, it just doesn't work the way you want it to.
I know someone who uses it very well.
Okay. But just different things like that. And as she gets older, right, you start to relinquish some of those because you want her to start to make those choices. But that's one of the way we kind of do it at our house, right? At the end of the night, before you go down, phones are in our room. You don't go in your room with your phone because that phone is exposed to the whole world.
Yeah. How often do you check her? Like, I don't want to put her out because it might mess up your parenting. How often are you guys checking the phone, or do you suggest parents like be checking the phones because you have that iPhone thing? But do you ever just grab the phone and like, let me see who she's messaging? Oh, you do.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
And we do it intermittently. It's not like every day at 7:30 I'm checking your phone. But whenever I got a feeling.
So how do you address something that you may not see, without being too intrusive to your kid because they start being sneaky. Once I know my dad's gonna check this or I know mom's gonna check this, so let me figure out a way to hide what I'm doing.
Well, a couple of the things that we do right in our home is first I have to have your password. If I'm going onto your phone and the password, it's non-negotiable.
You want a phone, I need password.
Because it's my phone. Right? Oh, it's my phone.
You heard what he said. Right? That's a bar.
Yeah.
That's not your phone. This is my phone. I'm allowing you to use it.
So the idea of intrusion doesn't even cross my mind.
Gotcha.
I pay for that.
Yeah.
Number two, if the password changed, we got a problem. Why are we changing passwords? Right? And so, you know, it's the nature of kids to not necessarily want to tell their parents everything.
Right.
I mean, I was a kid too.
Absolutely.
I get it. That just comes with the territory. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm not going to turn a blind eye and not do my responsibility to make sure I check up on you. And so, you know, and there's been times because my son has a phone too, where I'm like, we don't rock with this. Like, what is this here? And so to me, it's more of, remember, it's the mindset as a teacher. I'm my kid's first teacher.
Right.
So help me understand why you posted that. Help me understand why they sent that to you. Is that how they look at you? Is there something that you're going through that we need to talk about? So for me, it's more of, it's not a I got you type of thing. It's like, okay, we're learning and we're growing together, right? Because at the same time, there has to be some statutes of trust, but they need to be molded in a way in which I'm aiming you towards something better or bigger than yourself, right? And so, so we have those conversations like, hey, you know, this isn't something that I think is cool. Why did you think it was cool?
Yeah.
Such and such.
But
it lends itself to those conversations, right?
I like too how like you're not real abrasive when you're asking. It's asking like more inquisitive. Like I really want to know. Help me understand why. Like,
why'd you say this?
Yeah. What were you?
Like I've noticed before with some kids, they perceive themselves to be who they aren't.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know, they're online and you're perceiving like, hey, I'm this guy. But I know as a parent, you're not that guy.
Yeah, no, that's a good
one.
one.
Why are you putting yourself out here like you're that guy?
People do that too. We adults do that too, right?
Yeah.
Like you see somebody's Instagram, you're like,
that's not
that
true.
ain't you. Yeah, that ain't you.
But as your kid, how do you approach that? How would you approach that with your kid, with your baby? You see her doing something out there that's like, hey, what do you?
I don't know yet. I'm glad I'm not there yet. I'm still
but I remember I had the same situation, right? I was like, oh no, I don't. This picture ain't cool.
Yeah.
What made you want to do that?
Gotcha.
Right? Yeah. I don't know. And then it comes to the tears, and then then the conversation comes. Right?
I have another question, kind of aligned with that, but not so much. So this is about parents being tapped in with their kids. Like I need to know what you're up to, even at the school. At what point does a parent? And this is, I guess, a high school question. Yeah. Your kid steps onto the campus freshman year. Yeah. When should a parent be like? Have meetings with like the guidance counselor, making sure their kid is on the right track. Because you hear those stories and you've seen it where it's like senior year comes and it's like, your kid's not ready to graduate. And the parent has no clue.
Right.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, that's a sign of a good school.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That they are actually having those meetings with the kids without you initially have to setting them up.
Oh, so a counselor should be coming to you if it's a good school.
if it's a good school.
Yeah.
And
what year though? Freshman year, sophomore year?
At the jump.
At the jump. The summer before they step foot on campus.
Oh, really? Okay.
Wow.
Right? I mean, I know that's what we do at our school.
Yeah.
Before they even step foot on campus, there's already been some moments where they've had opportunities to speak with their counselor and put a plan together. Like if that's not happening where you are, you want to, number one, ask the administration why that's not happening. Maybe that's a practice they haven't had. And if that's something that they're not willing to implement, that might be one of the reasons you look to go somewhere else, right?
Gotcha.
Because the whole piece of setting students up for success, and like I said, just having an impact, you got to get to them before they get to you. And so, sitting down with their freshman school counselor to go over what their 4-year plan is with their parent is not only is an ideal, it's necessary.
Yeah.
Right. To have a kid go through, and I know when I was in school, we didn't do that. Right. Like I don't ever remember sitting with my counselor.
I don't think I did
at all. I think I saw him towards graduation or my senior year when they told me, oh, you should go to the community college. And I'm like, why? Like I got a 3.8 average.
Right.
That makes so much sense. That makes so much sense because when your first year in college, you do it then.
Right.
Yeah.
You go over through all your general ed classes, all the classes that's necessary for you to succeed.
Yeah.
The units you're gonna need and to move over and start working on your degree.
So we hit them up early.
Wow.
Like honestly, we have our counselors going to their middle schools, their junior highs, and starting the conversations.
Nice.
Right? Just so when they see them, it's not like, oh, who is this person?
Yeah.
And so so by the time that summer, they have what we call like their freshman orientation regiments, and they'll come in and they'll get their books, meet some of the administrators, speak with their counselors. and set up those 4-year plans with their families.
That is good.
Yeah, really.
What schools? Oh my gosh, that is really, really. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So I mean,
but it's still kind of on the parent though. I mean, you have to be invested in what your kid's doing, and you do. I mean, the counselor should come and approach. It's great that you guys initiate it, but as a parent, you don't want to wait till like sophomore, junior year to figure out if like your kid's on track.
You don't, and that's then. True. Even like I said, that's a sign, I think, of just a healthy school learning culture if your counselors are doing that. But I know there's schools too where, you know, the student to counseling ratio is like 500-600 to 1.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And
they kids can't slip through the cracks.
They can slip through, or the counselors can't get to them.
Yeah.
Right. And then you could have that kid that's coming home that's fibbing.
Lying to the parents.
Like, hey, how's everything going? Everything seems good.
It, Mom.
You even get the progress report, and it kind of show like, okay, he kind of hanging in there. Everything's good. Yeah. Oh, I missed a couple assignments. I'm gonna make up for him. Right. I'm gonna bring that grade back up. Everything's good. And then you wait till the last minute. Here come 10th, 11th, 12th grade.
Yeah.
Boy, you've been.
Yeah, man.
So, kids leaving high school, they should be either like college ready or career ready, right? They're either ready to go off to college or they're ready to enter into the workforce. The military kind of enters that conversation somewhat. Is there still military presence at high school? Like they come and recruit? Really?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I wouldn't even say it's college or career ready. It has to be both.
It has to be both.
It has to be both. And so once again, a sign of a good district, good school, is that they're offering both of those, right? I know schools, there's been an initiative in the States now for a while with what we call CTE, career technical education, right? Because it should be career and college, not career or college.
You think they should do both?
They at my site they do, but in the state overall they do, right? And now there's different levels of degree in which one does it and one doesn't. But part of that 4-year plan should also include career, right? Or at least have career opportunities for students on campus. And so once again, like when a kid comes in, most counselors are going to set them up for what they call like the A through G requirements to make sure that they're college ready.
Okay.
But at the same time, you want to make sure they have opportunities to take classes that are career related. Like we have, at least on our campus alone, like we have a construction tech career thing. We have culinary, right? We just started, we'll be starting in our district an educational pathway for kids who are interested possibly going into the teaching profession, right? There is a graphic arts one, there's a computer science one, and not just classes. Like these are when these kids graduate high school and they complete these pathways, they are given industry standard certifications to go out and make money. Period.
We were talking about this,
and so
because we didn't think that existed anymore.
It still exists, and so you know, we have a business pathway. Like it's so many different things, and I think part of the challenge is like parents don't know, right? A lot of them don't know, and it's not necessarily because the school is trying to hide it. It's just parents are busy, right? And kids aren't coming home like, oh, look at this pathway I'm in. Like, And so I think just in general, that relationship between like when I was in school was like PTA, right? Parent Teachers Association. That's not like, and there's still associations like that, but I think the busier the parent gets, the harder it is to kind of connect to what's happening at the school.
For sure.
And then, you know, if the kids at the school on their device the whole time, they try not really paying attention to what's going on anyway. So just kind of go to your point, like, those counselors are instrumental in a student successfully finishing their 4 years of high school. So, but yeah, those things still exist. My daughter, she's in a culinary class, loves it.
Oh,
right?
That's dope.
She goes to class. They're making burgers and fries and cupcakes. They're doing little challenges and stuff that you see on TV. And she's like, Dad, like this is fun. And I'm like, man, like, but that just also creates that culture of a high school experience, right? Obviously, we want her to do well academically, and then at the same time, she's an athlete, right? But it's kind of like those 3 A's, right? It's the academics, it's the arts, and athletics. Like, and for a student to be able to kind of have all of those in one, man, it's ideal.
I like that.
Just sitting here as a parent thinking about, I'm ready to enroll him over at your school right now.
Right.
Because there's so many schools in the district that just don't offer those things. You know, they took them away. I grew up in LA. You know, I went to schools in LA. And when I started, we did have woodshop. We did have some culinary schooling.
Automobile.
We did have auto shops.
Auto shops.
Oh, dude, they got one right now. Like they have this aviation one.
Oh,
right?
At your school?
Not at my school, but a school in our district.
Okay.
Where a student will take that pathway, and when they graduate high school, they got a pilot's license.
Oh,
what?
Wow.
See, okay, so then the parent, because listen, because you talk about inequities in school districts, right? Like people that are in poor neighborhoods, they don't have these resources.
You're right.
So that's not fair for a kid that doesn't have those opportunities. So what should a parent do if like, I want my kid to have everything you just listed off.
Right.
I want my kid to have those same opportunities to win. What does that parent do?
If they're in an area where, those opportunities aren't offered, many school districts now have what they call like school of choice or district of choice.
Okay.
Where you can go to any school that doesn't offer what you have at your site.
Oh, nice.
However, right, there's a caveat to it.
Yeah.
But if I'm poor, like I probably don't have the transportation to get them there. Right. And so I think one of the things that I've seen happen just within my experience for families kind of in that situation is taking it goes back to, you can't really take online courses if online or Wi-Fi is something that you don't have. I know we provide that where we are for families. And so it's hard, right? I wish I had an answer to be like, this is what you do. But if you're growing up in areas that, there's a low social economic standing and they're poor and these opportunities aren't there, I think, getting on school boards, right? Advocating for these students, being a part of school site council, and having those conversations with those who make the moves helps because it's needed. But like I said, sometimes parents, like I said, they send their kid. No one sends their kid to school to fail, right? And no kid is coming to school like, I'm looking forward to fail today.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening is because of a lack of resources or funding, right? Schools are funded differently. Like these opportunities don't happen, and so for everyone, which they should.
Do you feel like parents need to be more involved? I know, I get it, they're busy and moving around, but do you think it will be impactful for parents to just be more involved?
Good question. Getting
involved.
What do you see? Do you see a lack of
So
involvement with parents?
So where we are now, just in this educational space, it's like they're either super involved or not involved, right? Like it's both ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about what that looks like for the kid that has a super involved parents versus the one that aren't involved.
Right. And so just because they're involved don't always mean it's good.
Oh, okay.
Right? So I want to start with that one.
Yeah.
So I just remember when I worked at the middle school, right? Oftentimes parents would go, okay, my kid's in junior high, I'm gonna kind of take a step back, and kind of let them be them. And I just remember having conversations or listening to conversations from the students, the parents who kind of took a step back and was like, I'm gonna let you go.
Yeah.
The kids didn't like it. Like the conversations I would hear at lunchtime and the conversation they would share with me was like, man, like I saw my mom up here today, or my dad came, or we did this. Like they want their parents involved. They're not gonna tell you that though.
Yeah.
Right? They're gonna tell you, leave me alone. But they would brag to their friends when they would see like their parents were a part of what was happening. Right? At the high school level, right, you have parents who are involved because they obviously, number one, want to make sure their kid gets the best opportunities and education. They kind of want to, ingratiate themselves with like just the culture of the school and the community and be a part. And you have those parents who their kids do really well, right? And then you have parents who can't be as involved because they have to work,
right?
And their kids do really well, right? And then you have kids who were parents like they don't involve in all, and the kid does really well. So, but then you have the opposite as well too, where some parents who were really involved, where it becomes a distraction, they're in it because they fear if they're not, their kid isn't going to reach their potential, right? And then you have parents who just choose not to be involved at all, and their kid is doing poorly.
Gotcha.
But usually in those situations, what I have found is that if that student is doing poorly, typically their parent, when they was in school, didn't do as well either.
Oh, gotcha.
Right. There's usually some correlation. Like, if the parent typically didn't do good in school, you're gonna either have your kid like on everything because you understand the benefits, or they're gonna be like they're gonna probably follow your mold. So, I just think as a school, and speaking from a school perspective, there's different ways to be involved than it was when we were in school, right? You know, the school shouldn't be the hub of all the information, right? The parents shouldn't have to only go up to the school to get what they need, right? You should be able to do some of the stuff with technology, right? Whether it be, you know, Zoom or whatever,
right?
Or, you know, when schools send out information and, you know, electronic newsletters, or having things where, you know, they're inviting parents to be a part of the campus, I think is just as important as well too.
One thing that I found that I don't like much is the curriculums.
Yeah.
Right? Especially the newer curriculum with math.
Yeah.
Parents don't know that curriculum.
Yeah, that Common Core.
That Common Core changed the game.
Oh my gosh. How many times have that came home and I was like I can't help you. I know how to do it this way.
Right.
And he's like, no, that's not how it goes. And that was one of those challenges, the ballot, like, hey, like no,
I know this works.
I know this way works.
Look, we're getting the same answer.
But
we just got there differently.
But that's not how she wants me to do it.
Right.
And I'm up here like, oh, this sucks. How do parents go through that? How do we help? How?
So it's funny. I had a similar situation, but I think because with Common Core, right, there's pluses and minuses. Like, honestly wish when I was in school, in high school, they had Common Core, because common means you're keeping things common. So when I would have left from Inglewood to Claremont, it would have been the same. Would have been the same.
Gotcha.
Like, I would have been like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Where, you know, I think now what's happening is, specifically with math, it's usually, not usually, there's more way to solve the problem than the way we did it.
Right.
And so, and then kids are always looking for an opportunity to tell their parents they're wrong, right? So you got that part as well too, right?
Yeah.
So, you know,
but TikTok said
right. But if Mr. Johnson said do it this way, I want to do it this way. And so I wouldn't, and I understand the battle, but at the end of the day, what you really want is for your kid to be able to understand, not just in math, but in life, there's multiple ways to get to the same equation.
Gotcha.
Right? Because I think that just helps with their resiliency. That helps with them just being able to collaborate with other people, because, you know, we may all have different ways to tie our shoe, but at the end of the day, we just want the shoe tied.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
When you talked about those kids that are doing well and versus the kids that are not, real quickly, can you talk about some traits you see that are common in the kids that are doing really well, and then some traits that you see in the kids that are doing poorly?
Yeah. Well, one of the I think the core things for the kids who are doing really well is they tend to operate off of a mindset that's a growth mindset. Okay. Right? Explain as opposed to a fixed one.
Okay.
Right. So a student with the growth mindset, we'll use your math example, right? You say 2 times 5, I know that equals 10. Right? Say a kid says 2 times 5 and they go it equals 7. They got it wrong. Right? A kid with a growth mindset will look at that as like, okay, let me learn from that and improve. A kid from a fixed mindset will look at that and go, I just never really been good at math. Right?
Wow.
So the mindset is different. So if I'm looking at my mistakes as not necessarily mistakes, but as opportunities to learn, those kids, they take off.
Yeah.
Right? Because everything for them is more of, this is how I get better, right?
Yeah.
And then you start to praise their efforts, right? As opposed to the outcomes.
Yeah.
Where students who have kind of that fixed mindset, they go, oh, my mom and dad always said, or my parents said, I'm good at this. Gotcha. It's a natural talent.
Yeah.
But then you get it wrong, you go, oh, maybe I don't have any natural talents anymore.
Gotcha.
Right? And, you know, because what was always praised was the outcome. What wasn't praised was the effort.
Gotcha.
And so that is, in my experience, what I've seen the biggest difference is with students is just their mindset, you know? And so one of the things that I try to incorporate with my own kids is, you know, praising them for their efforts, right? If they come home with, let's say, a bad grade on a test, my first question to them is, what did you learn?
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't expect you to get it all right.
Right.
Right? But did you learn? Do you know where your mistakes were? Well, no, I don't know what they are. Okay, well, now that's an opportunity for me to help you.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm more concerned with, I don't know what the mistakes were than if they came home and they got an A and go, what do you learn? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the A looks great.
Yeah, it does.
Right? But if your kid ain't learning, what's the point?
Yeah.
That's true.
So a lot of that kind of starts just how we talk to our kids and what we praise, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of our kids, man, they feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
They feel under pressure because they're always in a position to have to perform. right? So whether it be at school, I got to perform in the classroom, whether it be their sport, I got to perform there. And they're always being judged on the outcomes of their performance. And many of them aren't being, praised for the effort they're even putting forth. So
what about the kids that do poorly then?
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of gave both examples, but is it just that mindset, that fixed mindset, or do you see other common things?
There are other things. I think part of it has to do with mindset. Like, I just never been good at it.
Yeah.
I think other parts of it is just they haven't been exposed to how to do the work, or people model it for them.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm thinking of a kid in my head right now that I just had a conversation with on Wednesday, where his whole thing was like, no one in my family has gone to college, and I ain't trying to get in debt, so why do I need to even be here? You're just wasting my time.
Yeah.
I just want to make money. And there's a lot of truth in what he's saying.
Yeah.
Right. I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
But what he doesn't understand is that education is still the number one way to put your trajectory forward, to either be in a middle class living lifestyle, right? Education is
the driver,
is not only the driver, but it's like the central component.
Yeah.
But he sees it as, well, I don't need school.
Yeah.
Right. And so my conversations with him, who's a student who is doing poorly academically, is how do I get him involved in the culture of the school? Because I ain't going to be able to sell to him, you need to get an A in math. But if he's involved in something, whether it be a club, a sport, or an activity, or a program, where maybe one of those career programs, right?
Yeah.
Let me put you in construction technician where you can see, I can build something. Learning is something that it's important to do, because that I can maximize my dollars. Now I got him.
Yeah.
And so so that's how you can help the kids doing poorly. But there are some kids who are just intentional non-learners. Like, they don't want to learn.
Gotcha.
You got that too. So
real quick, just because we're running out of time, school safety.
Yeah.
If you could just briefly kind of share some insight on like what's that conversation been and what you guys are doing to make sure our kids are safe right now, because the school shooting thing seems to be out of control.
Yeah, man. It was just something that happened. I think there was the Uvalde one in Texas. There was something just recently in Louisiana. I think safety has changed over the time I've been in education. Like, safety used to mean physical safety.
Right.
What can you do to keep my kids physical safe? Like, there's gates on the school, right? We making sure kids check in with their ID to make sure they're kids they're supposed to be there on campus. But safety is also kind of spread to now. It's not just physical safety. We're talking about, how do you keep my kids emotionally safe? How do you keep my kids mentally safe? Right. Wow. So safety has these different layers to them than they did when we were in school. Right. And now parents, for the most part, are really not just adamant, but they do everything they can above and beyond to keep their kid physically safe. Right.
Yeah.
But they do nothing to keep them safe online.
Wow.
And the majority of the things that happen at school happen because it took place on social media. In a negative sense. Yeah. So from a school standpoint, like, we build in, like, we have security on campus, right? Yeah. We have what else? We have officers on campus, right? We have information that is sent to us when students use, like, our district managed Google stuff, where if a kid says like they're feeling suicidal or they feeling like, we get that information because so safety is something that is huge. But as a parent myself, like, it's something that I think about, like, because there's no way you're going to keep my kid 100% safe. I know that. Right. And I think every parent knows that, even though they don't talk about it. Yeah. But it's an issue because you got people coming and shooting up the schools, right? And we got security. I mean, we have one entrance, two entrances to our school, 2 exits. So that's secure. Like, and so we got cameras, and I'm pretty sure we're not the only school or district that has those things. Right. But, when you say safety, I've seen the definition change because the expectation has always been, you're going to keep my kid physically safe. Gotcha. It's like, how do you keep my kid emotionally safe? Dang, that's big. Yeah. Because a lot of times parents wanting to be the all for our kids, when we say emotionally safe, we try to prepare the road for our kids. Yeah. Instead of preparing our kids for the road. Right. That's a bar.
Man. So speaking of safety, I know we wanted to mention at some point that the kids delivering DoorDash and getting picked up with Uber Eats. That's a safety issue, right?
Oh man, yeah. It's something that schools are still addressing. In our school, we addressed it because, kids, sometimes parents feel entitled as well too, right? So I'm working parent, I ain't got time to make you a lunch. So from the school standpoint, it was like, well, there's free breakfast and lunch. Well, I don't want to eat the school lunch. Like, I want my Chick-fil-A, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they order the Uber. Uber comes and drop it off. Now I'm compromising my security because my security has to check to see who are these Uber Eats people are.
Right.
Right. They're not looking at the school or the kids on campus because I got to check in these bags. And everybody who's dropping off ain't necessarily Uber Eats, although they may have an Uber Eats sticker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so then you talk about like the whole thing with like, because school is just pretty much a microcosm of society, right? So
Yes.
anything happening in society is happening at school.
Yeah.
Right. So we got, foster youth homelessness. We got the opioid epidemic. Like we have like transgender stuff going on. Like it's everything you can think of. You hear in the news, it happens at the school site. Mm-hmm. But as it relates specifically to like people and families dropping stuff off, you don't always know who they are or what's in that bag.
Yeah.
And so we were like, no.
Y'all
right?
shut it down.
We shut it down. Like, no, we do not do drop-offs for food items. So if you choose not to bring a lunch, there is lunch for you. If you choose not to eat that, you make that choice.
Did you get pushback?
Oh, heck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how are my kids supposed to eat?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the school, we get the blame for a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
How are my kids supposed to eat? Well, we offer free breakfast and lunch.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want them to eat that.
My son said he doesn't like it.
He don't like it.
Well, pack him a lunch,
Yeah,
right? Like,
well, you pack him a lunch. Like,
Yeah.
well, I don't have time for that. When I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do.
Yeah.
We're giving you options.
Yeah, we gave you your options,
Yeah.
right? There's vending machines. Maybe you can get something from the vending machine, like
Yeah.
or he can just wait till after school. I don't know, but yeah, we got pushback for that. We get pushback for a lot of stuff because, once again, parents' mindsets are, I want to do everything I can to help my kid, right, be the best they can be. But if my kid has to experience any pain or discomfort, then all of a sudden they're not safe anymore.
Wow. All right. Last question. We'll let you get out of here, but we might have to do a part 2 because there's so much to unpack. These kids that you're working with right now, 20, 30 years from now,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be at their high school reunions, their class reunions.
Mm-hmm.
At these reunions, they're going to be having conversations about their high school experience, and Mr. Dejuan Johnson's name is going to come up. Let me say Mr. Johnson. We got school calling you by the first name.
That's all good.
When you think about your legacy, what are some of the things that you hope that those kids are saying about you 20, 30 years from now when they think about my experience with Mr. Johnson? Mr. Johnson was, fill in the blank.
Yeah. I would love for kids to say, he saw me.
Ooh.
Right. He sees me. He saw me. Like when I was on campus, he always had a smile. He always, gave me a hug or a fist bump. He made me feel seen. I think that's probably the most important, not the most important, but that's the thing I would want kids to say about Mr. Johnson. Like, he made me feel like I could do it, right? The whole, maxim or quote that says, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. Mm-hmm. I would want kids to know that Mr. Johnson cared.
That you cared. I love that.
Cared. Yep.
Well, man, good luck to you for the rest of the school year, man. And keep that, what you just said, at the forefront of your thoughts when you got to make these decisions out here with these kids and dealing with these parents, man. I mean, I know you care.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're feeling that same way too, man.
Yep.
Where can they find us, Sister C?
Yeah, you can find us on all listening platforms. You can follow us on Instagram.
Yes.
You can follow us on YouTube. Make sure to like, subscribe, share. This is a good episode.
Yeah.
This is a great episode.
We might have to have you back for, I say that, but we're probably going to have you back for part 2.
Whenever, man, you guys want me back, I'll be here. Like, I got millions of stories I've been doing, and I didn't even get to share some of the really good ones, but I think it just really gives good perspective on what's going on in the schools today. And when I talk to families, they're like, this is what's happening, or these opportunities are here. Like, we don't know. And so having a platform like this to be able to share, I truly feel I'm honored.
So we're glad you came.
Yeah. Well, that's it. We out of here. Just Two Scorpios.
Wait, we got to double it down.
Appreciate you guys for tuning in.
Just Two Scorpios. Y'all follow us, subscribe, like, share. We out of here.
Cool.